welcome to Shy Society. I wake up in the morning and the first thing that I see is a bunch of cranky people on a full bus with no seats, repeatedly undermining what's in common misery. Strangers remain blinded to existence and their history. What's the recipe? Well, taxes and a slave wage, harassment from the death they face. Family happenings may take place, wait, negate the hate. The fan you'll never ever hurt. Brothers and sisters, not a damn thing from them you have learned. The pages turn, the future replicates the past. A building burns, fire revenge is pretty fast. War dance, it's a ritual in society. Live in shy land, this is what I describe to be. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. Will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Working one late afternoon, my head gets fatter with thoughts of you. Along with matters when bills are due. Does it even matter how many pills I use? Refuse to deal with psych treatment. I like to think I'm quite different. Enough with all that love you're giving. When you turn your back, it's a stab I'm giving. Wishing that our hearts would not crack. What little world you think you had? See, good and all is really bad. Mr. Mad, what example you have had? Harass a man for skin color. Hopes and women don't put me under. A stereotype will make you wonder. Racially say he'll steal from another. I went about late at night. I have to face the shy. Blacks, Asians, and whites. And yup, I'm the Mexican. Oh, and the Muslim gods who said that it's in them kind. The shy response hence is I'm a southern border type. Troops defend the shy. Me, enemy contact, they bomb back. Two sides on weapons contract. Whose arms not strapped? Speaking of faith to get into. Gandhi was a Christian, can you believe it? He was Hindu. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant society. You will always be a part of me. Childish, helpless, ignorant.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the Existentialists. I am your man Tony B, and today we have a special guest with us. Today we have Pedro Guerra. Pedro Guerra, I am happy to have you on. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Now, I'm sorry for the difficulty right now. For some reason, you have disappeared. Fuck it. It's all right. We're going to figure this out. Just give me a quick second, everyone. This is the Existentialists. We're here to discuss political and social contemporary issues. I really love to engage with the audience, so please make sure to hit that subscription button and always like us, comment, engage in the conversation. Please give me a sec while I figure out the technical difficulty of not having Pedro's face. I'm looking for you, man. You kind of went, I think maybe... Yeah, this is so weird. I don't want to have a blank screen. Let me make sure you're going good. It's all right. It's not 7:30 yet. That's the time we start, everyone. So you can log off for the moment. Great.
Do you have my camera in order? Like, is it on top of the...
Yeah, yep. It should, you just disappeared. Yeah, you disappeared hard. You are not even existent anymore. That's okay.
Are you in studio mode?
I'm not in studio mode. Let me just... It's okay. We'll get it back. This will be you. You were right there just before I started. But it's all right, everyone. Today we're talking about Ganjapreneurialism. Have you noticed the word is ganja? that's key in discussing all of this. Actually, I know what the problem is now. Because you're still visible. I see you in this application.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. There you go. Let's do that. Don't worry. We can do this. I think I know what I did wrong. All right. If you're watching, you are seeing the process of creating nice little image. All right, we have Pedro here live with us via Skype. This is
Alright.
a terrible introduction, but Pedro Guerra is a good friend and a political ally in the Chicagoland area. Pedro, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we go on to the marijuana introduction?
Yeah, again, my name is Pedro Guerra, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. One of the things that I like to do is network, definitely getting out there, especially during the political season, trying to see what's going on, trying to see what communities we can help out with. My background is in financials and communication. So, one of the topics that I like to speak on is cannabis, and especially now that people are now that it's recreational in Illinois, we just want to make sure that the Black and Brown community we're getting a part of ours. Since we've been infected, we've been impacted so much in the community. So just a little bit about myself.
Beautiful. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for engaging in those types of journeys in the cannabis industry. At least now that we have someone like your stature from your community being able to try to represent those who have been marginalized for so long. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with the good news, of course, and that is we actually, remember I called it Thursday. It was Thursday evening. I was talking about the United States MORE Act. And the United States MORE Act has definitely passed the House in the U.S. Congress. That's the U.S. Congress. It passed majority Democrats. 6 Democrats decided not to vote for the MORE Act for whatever reason, maybe conservative values, as I discussed last time. And only 5 Republican representatives backed the bill. Matt Gaetz, who I called an asshat, I actually apologize for that. Although that's how I feel at times about he's a Florida representative on the Republican Party. I take it back because he actually called out his own party and told them because the federal government lied to the American people, we should be getting behind the MORE Act, decriminalize marijuana, and of course open it up to the markets because the premise that marijuana prohibition was based on a lie should give you enough reason to legalize the plant. And now, based on the marijuanamoment.net, it has been projected from some federal analysts that by legalizing marijuana, $13.7 billion could come to the United States in revenue within a decade. That's $13.7 billion. Now, people already have their eyes on where is that money going to go. Much of a percentage of it, we know in Illinois when cannabis was legalized, there was a 25% revenue to fund programs to assist for job placement and then rehabilitation, substance abuse, that likes. And of course, we know that this past election, which is strange, we see a number of states coming behind the idea of legalizing medical marijuana, recreational use, or sometimes just CBD oil, which you gotta admit, they're different. So I don't know why it took them so long to do the CBD oil. But Montana, Arizona, New Jersey, South Dakota, Mississippi, all of them projected. And I think there's one that's missing. I believe Florida. Florida, while they didn't approve the ballot measure, Florida gained overwhelming support for legalized cannabis. I could be fact check on that. That's what the audience is for, right? And of course, if you haven't figured it out yet, this is the beautiful map of America. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, only the likes of Idaho and Alabama, those types of states, are still behind in completely making marijuana illegal or keeping marijuana illegal. But the United States is turning green. And as I said last time, conservative values eventually expire, right? Not to say they expire and they die off forever. Because some conservative values have meaning and importance. But when it comes to the social issues, conservative values lose. The progressives will have their day in court, in the public court, of course. Oop. Don't want to go too fast. But even though we are leaning green, we still have the Karens of the world, which are the Republican Party. A GOP lawmaker files complaint over Democrats' marijuana mask during House legalization debate. Yes, we're still there. The same party that told us to tolerate and accept Donald Trump as our legitimate president, as he was. Well, he didn't act like one. Suddenly, it's a cry for moral inferiority that someone would dare wear a cannabis mask in the chambers. How dishonorable. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Republican Party is the Karen of the United States. Yes, thank you, Republican Party. We need Karens. For who else would dare speak to the management? Now bring us back to Pedro. This is momentous, right? MORE Act is symbolic. We have to recognize that the Senate is run by Mitch McConnell, and even if the Democrats, let's say, win Georgia, the two Georgia Senate seats, I don't know. These are two conservative Georgians, or however we say Georgia residents. They're not too progressive, but there is some hope, right? I don't see this as being legalized within this president, these 4 years to come. What do you? Come on, give me something, Pedro.
Well, I mean, I definitely see why you see that, especially given based off of the prior administration. A lot of people thought that under the Obama administration that would be the administration that was going to either push something or even do an executive order to legalize cannabis on a federal level. Just thinking about why, when Obama was in Hawaii, it's an interesting story. He had a group of friends who they were called the Chun Gang. It was pretty much a smoking club where they would have rules, they would hotbox their van, things like that. So that's why he was an advocate of cannabis on what it could do, because he was a user. It was noted a lot that he smoked cigarettes a lot, but prior to that, he was a cannabis user. He smoked. Nobody's denying that. That's just a fact. Coming up with this new administration for, President-elect Biden, there is hope. I know it's not one of the 100-day things that he's talked about, but having this on a federal level, I don't think it's going to pass through the Senate. And if it does, I don't think, President Trump will pass it. He'll probably veto it, just like what he's about to do with, I forgot which bill that's coming up. So that's one of the reasons why, there is hope coming into these next 4 years. On a federal level, a lot of people who have dispensaries, and we'll get to that later on, it's hard for them to put their money somewhere because banks are not going to let them put their money into banks because it's FDIC insured, so it's not legalized on a federal level, even though it's legalized on a state level. So you're looking at locations that have a bunch of cash money in vaults where they have to have security. Um, I always wondered why the state didn't make a state bank just for cannabis. Make money off of the interest that people are going to do with the deposits into them, and then just reallocate some of that interest into the community as well. So that's one of the reasons why, I'm confident and hopeful that this next administration actually does something with cannabis and legalizing it on a federal level.
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoy the fact having you on because you have that perspective. You've dealt with the Illinois process of trying to get legal ownership of marijuana distribution centers, the cultivation of it, right? Business, marijuana business. You've been through this process, and we're gonna explore that. I wanna go with what you're saying at this federal level. There has been talks that a president via executive order may have the potential to legalize marijuana just by taking it off the Schedule 1 listing, right? Marijuana is listed Schedule 1. That's one of the most dangerous being in that schedule. And it's presumed that the Attorney General has this power that can remove that scheduling, that can remove marijuana from Schedule 1. Therefore, decriminalizing it across, well, no, I'm sorry. That would open up the market, right? Because now, with a drug being descheduled, the market and the banks really have nothing to fear. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I mean that would be great. Ideally, that's kind of what I was mentioning. Um, that would be huge on so many levels where it's the dispensary owner, the community, just instead of raising taxes every 4 years or every time there's a vote, these are funds that could go and get reinvested into into communities that are desperately needed.
Now, there. I don't know if you know this, but I'm working on a project with this concern. Is that first because it's written in the U.S. law, we signed into that single, what was it? I forget what it's called, but it's like the single narcotics convention within the United Nations. Those 53 nations agreed that they would work together in an international way to stop the trafficking of drugs, the regulation, the medicinal purposes, right? So they want to be able to work as a community. And the UN voted marijuana will be taken off of the Schedule 4, the most dangerous. But because Congress wrote into law that we abide to that single convention of 1961, that we're kind of stopping ourselves. We can't do much because we wrote into law, which to me kind of silly. We undermine international law in so many ways, and there's no mechanism for the United Nations to hold the United States accountable, unless, well, like Dave Chappelle. There was a funny skit Dave Chappelle did. The UN. What are you gonna do about it? What army are you gonna send? You and what army, right? There's no real mechanism. So that's a farce. I don't believe that international cooperation on the use of marijuana is such a big deal. I would tell the UN leaders, hey, get over it. I don't want to disrespect the international community. But it really comes down to the House. In the House, there's also laws that Congress feels that they're the ones the right to legislate. It shouldn't be coming from the president. I honestly don't care what the Congress does in that situation either, because once again the president undermines the Congress as enough as it is when it comes to war. You're telling me something like marijuana can't be used to undermine the Congress one more time? What are your thoughts? Maybe I'm radical.
No, I mean, I think if anything that this administration showed us as there's power in the presidency, right? If how many executive orders has this administration done? This brings me back to why elections are so important because you see, and this might be another reason why so many states flipped this election. You look at the Congress people that are running and also in the Senate and the judges. Those are just as important as voting for the president. They may be long. I mean, chances are they're going to be in their position longer than 2 terms as a president. But I think this administration showed us the power that's in that pen in signing an executive order. If they don't see something that they like and how they can overturn it, whether they veto it, sign an executive order, or anything similar to that.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. You're right. The public consensus is moving. There are congressional members buying all in, but this was what comes down to. While we are leaning in the right direction and there is hope, I think we should always keep that. We have a larger issue, and I want to explore that with you because that's why you're here today. It's really your expertise that I appreciate about this journey towards the cannabis industry. Now,
Thank you.
let's take a quick moment. Pedro, I want you to give us some notable shout outs to things you want people to know during these holiday seasons. Anything you want them to let them know about yourself. Who is Pedro Guerra? Give us a little extension more about what you do.
Yeah. So who am I? I'm an advocate for things that I really believe about, things that I'm passionate about. Cannabis right now, since I put in my application for dispensary, don't see that I'm going to get a license. However, that doesn't mean that I stop there. I know people who are in the process of it that are veterans who got taken advantage of. As soon as I heard that, we sat down, had a meal, just wanted to hear their story, and see how is it that I can help, whether it's connecting them to the people that helped me, which is a minority group, or is it someone who trying to see for other veterans, maybe they're not going to get it, but some other veteran who are going to get taken advantage of through the application process. A lot of veterans don't know that their name is on the application. They'll know that their name's on the application, but they don't know that they don't have any ownership in the process. So they're just glorified employees getting paid a salary, and if they want to fire them in about a year, 2 years, and they'll definitely go ahead and do that without having any ownership for these veterans. So I'm an advocate for that in the community, students, anything that I'm passionate about. Definitely like to go out and see if I can find resources and how I can bring them to what I'm doing at that moment.
Great to hear, man. And that's why we have you on. Everyone listening, we'll drop some links in the comment section, anything about Pedro. That way you can reach out to him if you feel he's the type of advocate that you want on your side. And of course, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. We are the Existentialists. So let's get into this. Well, don't we? Here it goes.
Yeah.
This was as of May. Illinois announced $31 million in marijuana revenue funded grants to repair drug wars and harms. Now, this was part of the legalization effort. This was the R3s. That's what is it? It's reinvest. Help me out here. It's reinvest.
Reinvest. I don't know if they talk about reparations.
Reparations is one of them. It's 3 R's.
I'm not sure.
Well, the point is the 3 R's. This is supposed to. It's in this article. 31 million is supposed to go through the Restore, Revest, and Renew program. Now, this is important because what it does is it's bringing revenue to communities that can apply, right? These have to be communities that were devastated by the war on drugs, right? So it's made possible. The state stipulates that 25% of the tax revenue from marijuana sales must go to the R3 program. So this is great news, right? This is good in the sense of those being harmed on a criminal level, for funding for programming to help the youth develop. So in so many ways, this is being done in Illinois. And it's magnificent. So that's part of the story, right? And then come October, no one saw it coming. Record-breaking marijuana sales streak. New state data for September shows. Wow. So how much money you guys think they're making? Well, shows that in-state residents accumulate almost $50 million of the revenue coming in September alone. In January, it started at 30 million. It saw a bit $5 million dip. But here you go from 30 million at the beginning of the year to almost 50 million. And then out of state residents, they contribute almost a little over almost 18 million. And so we have 39 million made in January, and now there's 67 million made in September. This industry is growing. Out of state residents are enjoying the love too. And it's predicted that marijuana sales will go up to 928 million within 4 years. That is a big deal.
That's huge.
Think about all the money that could have been made, but simply went to the black market. No offense to the local drug dealers. But think about that. All this money. So much moolah. But here's the big issue. Apparently, and this has been a while, this is a 2019 study. A breakdown of marijuana business owners and founders by race. I'll be honest with you, Pedro. I am not one to really stir up the flames of racial identity politics. I'm not one of those people. I know there's the importance there, but that's not my role when I talk politics. I'm from a class lens, right? The Marxist criticism of capitalism. So I think class is very important. Race is still important. But this is important to note. 81% of the business owners in the marijuana industry, 81% white, 6.7% other, 5.7% Hispanic Latino, 4.3 African American, 2.4 Asian. These stats speak volumes. Now in Illinois, the story was, I think all of the medicinal cannabis markets in Illinois, all the industries, those that are open for business, at the start, there was about just a dozen, I believe, a little more than a dozen, and they were all owned by whites. So no minority ownership. And so what happened when marijuana was legalized for recreational use, the same people in the medical industry, they pretty much marketed on just expanding. Why don't we just sell it for recreational use too? So that happens. And so remember, this is just across the country, 81%. Of course, whites make the majority, but it shows it's a story here. Now, this is where I want to get, Pedro, this is where I want to get you in, because you had informed me you are a social equity applicant. And in my mind, I'm like, I wonder if he's owning this label with charisma. Or do you see this label as ironic? What are your views on the social equity applicant label?
Yes, that's a great question, and the reason why is because when the state decided to have a category for social equity applicants, I thought it was a great idea, doing it the right way. If you live in a low-income neighborhood, been convicted of a cannabis crime, if your sibling or any of your immediate family member has been convicted of cannabis crime, you are going to get the social equity points, which is an additional 25 points, which is huge when you're talking about applications. But going back to the dispensaries that are owned right now, that were owned medicinal, and now that they have recreational, those dispensaries don't have to go through the process. They automatically are awarded an extra license so they can open up their recreational dispensary. So, it just bypasses all that. They've had the medicinal, now they can go ahead and open up a recreational. That's why you see places like in Schaumburg, I believe Sunnyside, Cresco opened up the largest dispensary in the state. So going back to social equity, what was it supposed to do? Throughout the application, in the application process, social equity is a big deal. Showing similar to what the banks do with the Community Reinvestment Act. So showing how you're going to reinvest into the community, you have to have a plan, you have to have a budget, you have to have a layout. So when social equity first came out, I was excited. I was glad that I only had to pay for half of the fees. So instead of having a $5,000 application fee, it's reduced to 2,500. But then the outcome, you know, right? The licensees or the individuals who were in the lottery were chosen for the social equity. And then you looked at the LLCs, you looked at the people that are behind them. And what they're doing is they're just using an individual, kind of like what I said with the veterans. They're using somebody who is in a low income family to say, hey, if I give you $60,000 as a salary for us to use your name on this application, you're going to be, remember, it's on the application. They can still have a contract on the back end when talking about ownership agreement and operation agreements, which is, I'm glad, prior to my experience, I know some of this. For those who don't, they see that it's 60,000, 70,000. Where do I sign up? Veterans were getting paid 5,000 on the spot, another 5,000 if they made the lottery, and then they would get their salary. So these are stories that are true. You'll read about them in the papers. And after that, my whole thing with social equity was going back to classism, where the wealthy are coming into the kind of like predatory, getting people to do applications, and just for 200, 500, paying half the fees. So they get all the benefits of being a social equity applicant without being a true social equity applicant. As of right now, we're still waiting to see what the state's going to do. Again, I might not get it, but at least I know the process, and I can help a couple of friends where, like from the Green Card Veterans or any other organization that I know, and they'll talk to me, that we share these stories.
I want to make sure we understand what you just said, because it's so important that we need to revisit it real quick. Are you telling me that there are actual people being paid to be a front for someone else's business in some sense? They're essentially like, if someone would come up to me and say, hey, Tony, since you live in a war on drug devastated area, and you might have had some family members that dealt with cannabis arrests, you know what? You qualify as a social equity applicant. How about we have you sign a contract, we pay for all the fees to apply, and we'll give you this much money. But we really will be the owners. Your name would just be there. That's what I heard you say.
No equity. Yes, no equity at all. It's you know what? It's kind of like, unfortunately, the old Chicago way when people would run rackets. That's what it is, right? What's a racket? A racket is a legitimate business in the front, and then the back end, they're running an, I wouldn't say illegal operation, because they have the paperwork, they have everything. But in essence, that's what it is, right? It's just the face of something and then taking the mask off. It sounds like a racket.
Sounds like fraud. I hear fraud.
Well, that's where these operation agreements are crucial. I did in front of PGMR. I could have the acronyms wrong, but they're the ones that did the scoring, the tallying for these applications. In all the states that have been legalized and have been doing the applications for social equity or even new applications, there's never been a perfect score. You're going to tell me that, in Illinois, there was over 10 perfect scores. Something doesn't add up right. And that's one of the things that we asked the governor. I went on TV, we asked them to stop the lottery, which thankfully they did, because a lot of these veterans signed the operation agreement assuming that they're going to take ownership or equity in the business, which is not the case.
This is devastating, and see, this is why we have to bring the public's awareness on this up. This is why I get it. Marijuana isn't the existential threat. It isn't the existential issue of our time. However, if there is an opportunity to change the tides of history, marijuana would have been a good starting point in modern American history right now, today. That's easy. For me, that's easy. And they're making it so difficult. They're making it easy for those that have never dealt with the hardships of prohibition to have the most access. It's so insulting to our intelligence. And so I'm glad that you got on board. Can you speak more about Was there a response from the governor's office?
Well, not well. Their overall response was stop. They did stop the lottery, so as of right now, there has not been any new licenses issued. So they're investigating it. Someone that wrote the cannabis bill that passed through the state was on an application that was approved so they could go in the lottery. So what they do with the lottery, they'll put your application, they'll put your number down. And if you get picked, then you're a dispensary license owner. But even going back to how you mentioned the whole prohibition, again, going to this back election, close states that almost flipped was Florida and Texas, who right now, their residents like to, they smoke cannabis. They're waiting for that state to go ahead and approve it. Florida, maybe Texas is in another long shot, but Arizona passed it. Nevada passed it. At the end of the day, people are going to start to notice that there might be a trend. There may or may not be a trend where these politicians are listening to their people. And with cannabis, it's not hurting anybody, right? We're doing something for the crisis on opium because there's so many overdoses, right? There has not been one overdose in cannabis to be recorded. So that's another reason why people could use it as an advantage or disadvantage. Well, it's not killing anybody, so they just want to forget it, out of sight, out of mind. But in the long run, when I went to California to celebrate my cousin's wedding, my grandmother was complaining about her knee. My cousin lives out there. They deliver cannabis to you on the spot. I gave her some. What pain? Just microdosing, things like that. So
They delivered.
It's something that helps.
They delivered cannabis like it was a hot pizza. That's what I just heard you say.
I think I got it faster than if I would order pizza.
Oh, yeah.
So it's probably like a combination. You smoke it and then the pizza comes later. I don't know.
I mean, it should be I don't know what a name would be. I'm not trying to throw too many ideas out there because if I come up with the best one, I'm gonna trademark it, right? A Grubhub for marijuana. Jesus, just do it. Just do it already. Someone needs to invent that. Pedro.
Yeah, they I forgot what it's called. They have something called. It was actually the biggest sponsor in that Tyson fight.
Oh, for real? Okay, yeah. Yeah, the one Tyson never wants to do again. Or Roy Jones Jr.?
Yes.
Yes, that fight. I didn't see it yet. I did not see it. But I want to show
It's
the
called
viewers.
Weed Maps.
What is it called?
Weed Maps.
Weed Maps. Look at that. Look at that, America.
Yeah.
How brilliant an idea. Let's take a look at this. So we understand more in detail based on the Illinois.gov. What is social equity? Well, the Illinois is the only state, and I don't care about that. They created a $30 million low-interest loan program funded by current license holders. Okay, can we dissect one at a time? $30 million low-interest loan program funded by current license holders. Okay, I get that part. So, the current license holders are funding this $30 million low-interest loan program. Was this part of the application for you? Like when you applied, you were offered a piece of that $30 million?
If I wanted to, I'm assuming. But I went through an organization called the Fourth Movement, which is a minority-owned business, California, Illinois, and they would have fronted the. Well, obviously it would have been mutual. Contract where it would have been 70% mine and 30% the Fourth Movement as an equity piece.
Okay, so that didn't apply to you. You did see it though, did you? The $30 million.
Yes, that was correct, and that's why Presco, they created their own incubator as well for applicants to set up their own dispensary.
Beautiful. Okay, and then so. This is what you were talking about. We establish a social equity applicant status for licensing that provides qualified applicants with 20% of the total points available in the application. You mentioned 25%. That's better than what it
20.
says. It says
No, it's 20, and then the 5 would have been for the veteran. Like if you're a veteran, you get an extra 5.
I see. Okay, so you got that. And that's what
Yes.
that is that, as you had stated, you're it's a point system based on how well qualified you are. So the more points you get, obviously, you're probably gonna get a license compared to other people.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, and you get 20 automatic points. Here's the
Yes.
thing though. Here's what I'm interested in. How easy is it for those that aren't social equity applicants? How easy is it for them to catch up to 20%, to 20 points?
It really depends on who's writing well, not the contract, but the application process.
Okay.
So the application process has to be in a thumb drive. It's outlined through the state's cannabis site, and it'll talk about like when it has to be due, what the bullet points are. One of the biggest things is knowing a floor plan, right? So you don't know what they're looking for. So that's why these applications that received the perfect score, it was interesting to see why or how they got a perfect score. What was it? Was it the floor plan or what happened? Knowing that you got a perfect score, that means those extra 5 points as a veteran pretty much puts you in the leading category.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if somebody knew that. That's why they targeted veterans so much.
Yeah.
But there's never been a perfect score in the history prior to Illinois and other applicants throughout the U.S.
Sounds like
Yeah,
insider
applications.
trading kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's
They're
why
talking
they
to each
stopped
other.
it, and they're going to investigate it.
Good. And if you ever find anything else out about this, and I'm blind and ignorant to the fact of what's going on because I don't pay attention, please, as our expert, come back on, share this information.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want to do this again.
Let's see. Okay, we are providing a 50% fee waiver for qualified social equity applicants. Did you obtain, or because you went to the other party, to the minority-owned business, what was that like? Did you get 50% off?
Yeah, everybody, every social equity applicant gets 50% off the fees. That's why I was saying the wealthy were coming in looking for social equity applicants. So they can also pay 50% of the fees and get those 20 additional points, 25 if it's with a veteran.
All right. I don't really care for that one. Let's go into this one right here. Where is revenue from cannabis going?
What was that?
Where is revenue from cannabis going? This is also part of the social equity initiative. 35% will be transferred to the general revenue fund. I'm guessing the general revenue fund, that's for the state of Illinois, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. 25% will be transferred to Criminal Justice Information Projects Fund to support the R3 program. Okay, that's good. That's 25% that we mentioned earlier. 20% will be transferred to the Department of Human Services Community Service Fund to address substance abuse and prevention and mental health concerns. This is good that it's separate. 25% for Criminal Justice Fund, 20% for Human Services like substance abuse and prevention and mental health. Great.
Right.
10% will be transferred to the Budget Stabilization Fund to pay the backlog of unpaid bills. That one's probably the most interesting at the moment. I don't know. It kind of irks me that we're using a newly built industry to pay back unpaid bills. You have any thoughts on that, Pedro?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same theory. I don't believe or I don't think that people who dealt cannabis or in the past or any circumstance, they did that because they had other options. I think somebody was dealing cannabis to provide. They saw it as a meaning of, what they're going through. Didn't really hurt anybody. It's crazy because that's almost the same mentality that the state's doing, right? Hey, the state's in trouble. What do we want to do? Let's legalize cannabis. Let's tax it. Let's pay these unpaid bills. So it's kind of a similarity right there.
I want the state to get out of its hole. So in some sense, I'm like, yeah, you should legalize and help your situation, dummy. That's a good source of revenue. But then it's like, you know what? I think that 10% should go back towards the 25% criminal justice. Put 5 there, put another 5 on the human services. But in order for our institutions to function, yeah, their incompetence needs to be rewarded, right? Great.
Yeah, unfortunately. And like you said, if they were to allocate that, and that's what a lot of people are saying, just with any budget. Hey, let's allocate this amount of money into these programs instead of having this much left over, or just instead of overfunding certain programs that could actually reduce violence and could actually reduce other things. Again, it's not something that's going to happen short term. That's why when people start talking about that, they're like, oh, they want instant gratification. We want it now. If we slowly, gradually, or sprint to that, allocating in the right direction, there could definitely be change.
Oh, this is a heavy one. This next one. 8% will be transferred to the local government distributed fund to support crime prevention programs, training, and interdiction efforts, including detection, enforcement, and prevention efforts relating to illegal cannabis market and driving under the influence of cannabis. The illegal cannabis market. So, while the war on drugs largely militarized, let's get this right. The war on drugs largely militarized the police across the country. That's why you see them with heavy art. They're looking.
Yeah. I mean, you see it on the back of their cars, right? This was an auction seized from drugs, or you'll see it, especially in the suburbs.
Yo, you brought up something brilliant. Maybe once again, I didn't write the law. I haven't read all of it. But in Illinois, what does this say about lawful seizure, right? I forget what it's called. I don't know why. I'm forgetting. But the police, if they believe your car, your home, or anything in your possession has something to do with unlawful activities, they can seize your property right then and there. And then you have to undergo an intense process to retain your property back, and you could lose because you have to prove to law enforcement and the court, you have to prove that your stuff had nothing to do with the illegal sale of narcotics or marijuana. The cops don't have to prove shit. They could just say, well, based on our inconclusive evidence, we believe it is. So that's all you need. It's like fucking Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus are real because we believe it. No offense to the Santa Claus believers.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a call.
So blue lives that matter, I guess. This is not a shit on the police right now, but this is a shit on the recognition that money could be better used. Find money in your own budget to fucking train yourselves and to hold these programs. Local governments especially. I think this is one thing missing. And Pedro, I think I come from a radical marijuana position. Tell me if you disagree with me. I think that these local municipalities who have to deal with the war on drugs, they should be forced to apply for the R3 program funding. They should be forced. Because what I'm seeing in R3 is, while the money is available for local organizations as well, like people on the ground organizing, which is good, they have to apply. Towns, if they don't have those infrastructures, those orgs on the ground, towns should be forced to apply for the grant money. Because they should be doing something. They're mandated to do something. I know it sounds overreaching, but if you are a local government and you knew this shit was going on, you benefited when the police collected all those minors, put them in jails, send them to juvie, tax their parents. I don't know. Am I radical? Maybe I am.
No, I mean that would pretty much make sense. Well, similar to like the suburbs who are opted out. So there's some suburbs that are opted out of having a dispensary in that city. So those suburbs don't receive any funding from the sales of recreational cannabis or medical.
Yeah, and then that's their choice, because I live in Cicero, Illinois. In Cicero, there was a referendum placed. If marijuana is legalized, would you want funding, the tax revenue, would you want it to go towards education? And we have a small district. Well, it's a large district because it's a large population, but it's a District 99, District 201, Cicero combined with Berwyn. They were asked, and the voters of Cicero said yes, send that tax money to education. I do not see a dispensary in Cicero, and I've known people who wanted to try to do that, and they've been rejected because Cicero doesn't want it. At least that's what the inside conversation is. Referendum doesn't mean shit for Cicero. They don't even have a minimum wage. Different story. Sorry. Yeah. So I don't know. I see the point you're making in states. I mean, municipalities having that right, but it just seems that place like Cicero, who benefited off illegal cannabis, they should be jumping right away in front of the train to get marijuana dispensary or funding for organizations in here. That's my position. Let's cover these last 2 points. 2% will be transferred to the drug treatment fund to fund public education campaign and to support data collection and analysis of public health impacts of legalizing the recreational use of cannabis. That's fair. Go ahead. Find the studies. It's good to study things. The Department of Revenue projects that this industry will generate over $57 million in tax revenue and licensing fees. Yes, that's obviously relevant. That money has come in, and it's going to continue to come in. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to go even further, Pedro. Because I want a ganjapreneurialist like you, right? And anyone like you, I want you to be successful. I think that's going to be a powerful thing for Black and brown communities and working class white communities if they were impacted by the war on drugs, or Asian, Native American, etc. Right? It's important to recognize that your efforts in a free market system has to be that way. I want to have this conversation with you, and this isn't far enough. And we know in terms of building equity, right, in the ways that you see the illegitimate use of social equity applicants, the perfect score, right? You're laying out good points. I have this urging feeling to say there should just be a large overreach from the government and saying ganjapreneurialists overwhelmingly should just be those devastated by the war on drugs. That should just be a mandate. My neighbors should be cultivating and selling marijuana, corner stores. I think that should be a mandate. Do you understand?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, a lot of the times, a lot of this crime that's happening, it could be over something as simple as, somebody selling on somebody else's property, or somebody that's, trying to do something. That can also help it as well. Decriminalizing it, for sure, and then educating on how you can. So right now, you're on the paying side of it. Let's show you how you can get on the give paying side of it, because people have been getting paid off of it for so long. It's only fair for us to get ours.
Get ours, and really, this is my position. I know that part of the Illinois research that's going to be done, and the grant money, how it's reallocated, how it's distributed, well, they're going to be looking into those things. It doesn't make sense that it doesn't go further, because, okay, within those the R3 program to try to distribute the funding. They really want to give the communities the decision. Okay, these community orgs, they know their community best. They know what the community might need. So that's a powerful statement within that program. However, it's, in my opinion, without anyone saying it, but I have to say it, one of the things that a lot of these communities need is a good paying job with benefits. And so if you automatically mandate that these communities can be co-opted, they should be, I know that they have to have 10, social equity applicants need to have 10 full-time employees. 50% of them or so need to be from these social equity applicants. These things should be owned by the community members. They should be hiring the community members. So I'm not sure if I go against the current standard in the law, which is 50% of the workers.
For the social equity, so are you referring to in order to receive social equity? Because that's another way for you to get social equity. Just saying that you're going to employ about 50% social equity applicants.
I say owned and employed. I get if John, the Italian guy, wants to come in and partner with you. I think that should be choice. If a social equity applicant does want to partner with someone that's not from a damaged community, that's choice. That are employed should be from that community. People that have been hurt, those with literally got incarcerated for selling drugs, those that are still selling drugs. Come on, buddy. We shouldn't be targeting you with police. We should be saying, hey, you need to stop what you're doing and just join us. You're going to make way more you made as a drug dealer. But I feel like I'm going too far.
No, I mean, one of the things that which would be great, is having a roundtable discussion with other people that I know in the industry that are going through the same process, or even are that have their own businesses, that are shops, that are going into the infused, because that's another market on its own.
Ganja, man, ganja. It's important that the movement continues, right? While the state's going to see the monetary gains, we can restore communities immediately if we expand the licenses. Except those that are, there's 75 applicants the last I read, and it was supposed to be postponed. It was supposed to be announced by June that they were going to know. Am I incorrect? They were supposed to know during the summer.
Yeah. So that's why it got postponed, first because of COVID. And then second, because we reached out, just everybody just reached out to the state and had them wanting to investigate the application process to see if it really was legitimate. Because remember, even though it's social equity, it's still half of the fee, but it's still $2,500. You know, people are still paying that fee, assuming that you're going to get a fair chance, whether you get it or not, to receive a dispensary license. And now that they're seeing that there's operation agreements, that the applications process might have not been fair. So people are upset about that. You know, you spend $2,500 to at least get a chance, or at least a fair chance, or even the people that spent $5,000, but you know, they were targeting the social equity applicants. So that's another reason why.
Do you know when they're gonna open up another round? Is it written anywhere?
The second round was supposed to be done in mid-December. So around this time, actually in the middle of December, so about 2 weeks from now, there was supposed to be the second round of applications. But I don't see that happening because the first round is, you know, they haven't even done that yet.
Man, it's a good direction so far, but it's insulting to our intelligence that they can't get their shit together in a more competent way. Like I honestly don't buy the COVID delay. Hold on. I buy a COVID delay, but the postponing because of COVID just seems ridiculous. I get because staff are going to be overwhelmed during COVID times, so it's probably going to take longer. but it seems like they just halted the operation. And you know, and people are still getting paid, but they're not getting paid fully to do their job. So I'm very confused on how that can even occur. I'm not on the inside, so maybe I'm not seeing something.
Yeah. No, that's it pretty much. It was postponed because of the review right now. They're reviewing the applications again.
Okay. So what's next? What happens? What happens if they don't find any irregularities on those perfect scores? What happens on that end, and what happens for you, man? What are some next paths if, knock on wood, you get denied, man?
Yeah, so right now the state's allowing applicants, veterans, um, to kind of edit their applications. So I'm not sure what the grace period is.
Yeah, I thought I saw
Right.
that. I think
I mean, I'm already I already know that this round I'm not going to be one of the lucky ones to receive this license. I mean, knowing that, yeah, at first you're like kind of down, and then seeing the process that it's going through now and how it was kind of corrupt. Um, I just want to make sure that when the next round, or as I mentioned in the beginning, if somebody that I know, especially a veteran, they're getting taken advantage of, kind of like, hey, you don't have to take that. Because you're not getting equity, you're not going to own anything. What they're going to do is just take advantage of you, and then you're in a contract probably saying that you can't do anything for like 2 to 3 years in the industry. So,
and you know what needs to happen if for any reason accountability is lacking. I saw Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. She stood in line when marijuana was first legalized. She was one of the first in line. There should be a PR campaign. Push a PR campaign and let the public know what's happening. You got to do it. You got to hold your own government accountable as a representative. And so this needs to explode in the media. I'll be honest, when I was covering last Thursday about the HR 384 MORE Act, the marijuana legalization, decriminalization at the federal level, they weren't really talking about it in the media. Like, there weren't mainstream articles. It was mostly in the Marijuana Times. It wasn't until Friday when it passed, everyone had to cover it. So marijuana needs more publicity. And I want to do my part, as that's not my only discussion I wish to hold. But I invite you, Pedro. I invite anyone else that has an expertise on this topic. Bring it. Let's create a PR campaign. And let's make sure that our government institutions are held accountable, because I grew up being hurt by marijuana laws. I knew people who were hurt. I'm pretty sure you as well. I mean, you're a social equity applicant.
Correct.
Well, Pedro, where can we find you? Where are we going to find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is IVOPedro. I do have a documentary. We'll definitely talk about that another time coming out. I'm producing a documentary called The Green City Project. So you can look that up on Instagram and Facebook, Green City Project. Facebook, Pedro Guerra. So you can definitely reach out to me. Happy to talk to anybody. Happy to see if there's anything that I can do to help, or if there's somebody that I could connect you with, or just share a similar story with somebody. Because right now, if you're frustrated that you didn't get picked, I know I've been there. Luckily for me, once I heard the process, I kind of I overcame it right away and saying, hey, if not me, then who can we help, or what can we do? But Tony, it's always a pleasure every time we meet. It's always a pleasure. There's always some knowledge that you're always dropping, whether it's in the public forum or just at a lounge or somewhere.
Crazy rants. He's always saying something meaningful. Pedro, you're very pleasant, generous, and humble individual that I engage with. It's very, very enjoying to really talk to someone who knows his shit, and you're involved. So it's one to have one thing, but you do both, man. and then you have your own private ventures, your cannabis venture. So I want to make sure that Green City Project, correct?
Yeah, the Green City Project.
When is the release date? Is still in progress?
So we've already filmed and shot most of the things. Again, because COVID, it kind of delayed the process, but we're here and there going to different locations. Always want to be mindful of the individual that we're interviewing them, social distance, and hopefully by next year, because we're already in December, but we've already shot most of the things. We have a great director, Raul Colon, from Chicago. Right now, he's based out of Orlando. So, just the whole team in general.
Beautiful, beautiful. I look forward to finding out when it's done so I can inform the audience. I hope that you can get it done sooner because I'm eager. I'm sorry, I'm very eager. I love to support local artists, local community activists, local business people, right? So when you get your license, I'm gonna tell people, shop here, shop green, right? Shop green. Pedro Guerra, our Ganjapreneur. This is Ganjapreneurialism. We are the Existentialists. Please make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, share our content, engage in comments. We love to talk about the hard stuff in our society. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll be back. Pedro, deuces.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Welcome to Shy Society. I wake up in the morning and the first thing that I see is a bunch of cranky people on a full bus with no seats, repeatedly undermining what's in common misery. Strangers remain blinded to existence and their history. What's the recipe? Well, taxes and a slave wage, harassment from the debt they face. Family happenings may take place, wait, negate the hate. The fam you'll never ever hurt. Brothers and sisters, not a damn thing from them you have learned. The pages turn, the future replicates the past. A building burns, fire revenge is pretty fast. War dance, it's a ritual in society. Live in shy land, this what I describe to be childish, helpless, ignorant society.